Nigeria-Bahrain seal historic pact, ushering new era of cooperation.
JAMB threatens to blacklist 10 CBT centers over illegal night registration.
$125 wraps of heroin seized by NDLEA as drug kingpins busted.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss constitutional amendment, proposed creation of states.
You seem to be under the weather, right?
A little bit, yes.
A little bit,
We'll
okay.
get better.
All right, you will be better. Well, it looks like Nigeria might be getting a whole new map soon.
A whole new map, you say, and that's a big one. What are we talking about here now this morning?
Proposed creation of states.
Well, the National Assembly is considering a constitutional review.
Amendment that could create
yes.
31 new states.
And 31, you say, that's almost doubling the number of states we have now, much more than the United States of America, actually.
Exactly, Jumai. The idea is to restructure the country's administrative setup, and these proposed states are spread across all 6 geopolitical zones.
Interestingly so. In the north central, we could see states like Bande, Benue Ala, Okun, and Apa. Over in the northeast, there's Amana, Katagum, and Savannah. And in the northwest, names like New Kaduna, Gurara, and Tiga are coming up.
It's the
we
same.
Have to learn to some new state names, actually.
Yeah, it's the same story in the south, where we're talking about Etiti and Urashi in the southeast, Ogoja, Wari, and Bori in the south-south, and for the southwest, states like Turu Ebe, Ibadan, Ijebu, and Lagoon.
This is huge, but let's not forget, it is just a proposal. It has a long road ahead before becoming a reality.
Exactly. A constitutional amendment of this scale needs approval from 2/3 of the National Assembly, state houses of assembly, and even local governments in the affected areas.
And, speaking of constitutional amendments, remember that last year, President Buhari signed 16 amendment bills into law, tackling things like state judiciary independence and electricity generation by subnationals.
Which brings us to today's discussion. Good Morning Nigeria is taking on the latest constitutional amendment efforts, with a special focus on the proposed new states.
And the 10th National Assembly is pushing to address major constitutional challenges, building on the 21 alterations passed by the 10th Assembly. From gender equality to local government autonomy, there's a lot at stake.
But the biggest debate is the possibility of redrawing Nigeria's state boundaries.
So today, we will be examining the legal hurdles, the political implications, and even how emerging trends like AI might shape future constitutional reforms.
Our expert panel will break it down for us. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I am Jumwe Yusuf. Let's check in with Stella Inamiti at the news desk for this morning headlines. And after that, Chukudi Okoluwaja will join us for our newspaper review. Good morning, Stella. A beautiful morning.
Good morning, Jume and Ademola. Here is the morning news. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuga has visited Nanma, the Kingdom of Bahrain, while in the kingdom. He engaged in bilateral discussions with his Bahraini counterpart, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani. A statement by the Foreign Minister's Special Assistant on Media and Communications Strategy, Al-Qasim Abdul Qadir, says the meeting focused on strengthening diplomatic relations, facilitating foreign direct investment from Bahrain, enhancing trade and investment opportunities, and fostering cooperation in the oil and gas sectors, with particular emphasis on onshore projects and the development of the 8th train LNG. The ministers also deliberated on the training of Nigerian diplomats and collaboration within multilateral forums. The conduct of Nigerians in the diaspora is instrumental in shaping the perception of foreigners about Nigeria and our bilateral ties with nations. As the current administration continues its ambitious drive for foreign direct investments, experts say Nigerians in diaspora should not demarket the nation.
Those opportunities, the young Nigerians, and they're doing that, and I'm excited about that. Look at their remittances. It's even grown bigger and better. And we are not even saying that beyond remittances, they should invest in their country if others are doing it.
Federal government has announced plans to commence tolling operations on the Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Expressway after its full completion in 2026. This, the federal government says, is part of strategy to sustain the integrity of the highway and improve security. This was disclosed by the Minister of Works, David Umahi, during an inspection tour of the highway.
Milling and asphalting at section 3, which is at Kano end, should get started, including the solar light that we are putting. You are aware that we have a number of additional works in the entire 375 kilometers from section 0 down to Kano there, that we've incorporated solar light, and we're also going to incorporate CCTV and then relief stations, preparing ourselves for the tolling.
The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has issued a warning to 10 computer-based test CBT centers involved in the registration of prospective candidates for the ongoing 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. JAMB says the affected centers are engaged in nighttime registration of prospective candidates. A statement by JAMB's Head of Public Affairs, Fabian Benjamin, notes that JAMB will not tolerate any violations of the regulations governing the registration process and will take appropriate measures against any center engaged in questionable or exploitative practices. The examination body also expressed concerns over the abuse of its newly introduced exceptionally brilliant window, which allows candidates younger than 16 to sit for UTME. Attempts by 2 drug kingpins to smuggle into Nigeria consignments of heroin through the Port Harcourt International Airport and the Murtala Mohammed International Airport have been foiled by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. Same as 48-year-old who was arrested at the Lagos airport on Saturday, 1st February, upon his arrival from Madagascar. He ingested 63 wraps of heroin. Meanwhile, 2 parcels of 2.82 kilograms of loud imported from the United States with Lagos as destination were intercepted at a courier firm in Lagos on Thursday, 6th February. In another interdiction operation same day, but in a different logistics company in Lagos, anti-narcotics officers intercepted 80 ampoules of pentazocine injection concealed in cartons heading to Canada. And in Kano, NDLEA operatives on Monday, 3rd February, arrested 2 men, Gada Tamburawa, where 15,396 pills of tramadol were recovered from a gas cylinder used to conceal the consignment. And in another operation same day, operatives nabbed a female suspect with 27 blocks of skunk, a strain of cannabis in Sabongeri area of Kano. And those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Jume after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social-economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary healthcare center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
What do you need?
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress.
No buy am. But why? No see say this big bull bag of rice no get the new big bull holographic seal. Not true.
Introducing the Big Bull Holographic Seal Tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull Rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull Rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
The world needs mums. With a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Change no thanks into yes please. Resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, Family meals is all that matters. Where there are moms, there is love. Golden Terra Oil, or pure love.
What wakes you up in the morning? Is it the sunrise? Is it the alarm? No. It's your dream that wakes you every day. It's what drives you like a powerful engine. That's why you start strong every day with the rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1, carefully crafted from selected coffee beans. You're on your hustle, and you won't stop until you succeed. Start strong, finish strong.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Nigeria is perched on a treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin, but none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okolu Baja, is seated in the studio. Good morning, Chooks.
Here, bright and early, I feel like a schoolboy, not just Chooks the boy. Hello, Demola. The one I am jealous of because of his coolness, I have to admit that there's something about you that I would have liked to learn.
And the fact that you visited the barber over the weekend, your face is looking...
You noticed?
Yeah, I did.
I thought nobody ever would.
Good morning, Chooks.
Morning. How are you? Ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, we're fine. Let's begin with the papers. Some interesting headlines in the Leadership newspaper. Above the masthead, the Leadership newspaper, FCT bus terminal construction generates 3,000 jobs. Find the details on page 18. And court affirms FCCPC's authority over telecom sector. Details on page 23. Just below the masthead, FBN Holding emerges best performing Tier 1 bank. You find details on page 7. And at the side piece of the picture story, slave labor, oil company threaten workers with sack in Delta. Details on page 4. Farmers flee as bandits kill 5 in Benue. Details on page 7. Kano targets polio eradication timeline. Find the details on page 19. And gas explosion destroys vehicles, shops in Niger State. You find the details on page 7. And the headlines in the Leadership newspaper today. 3 months after, expectant mothers yet to access free cesarean section. With Rider, Nigeria records 1,047 maternal deaths by 100 live births. We have MOU with 20 tertiary hospitals, that's coming from NHIA. Awaits list of referral hospitals from states, and no patient has met criteria, that's coming from the UATH. Saudi Arabia restricts multiple entry visa for Nigeria, 13 others. You find the details on page 7. And the picture story you see there, Vice Chairman Leadership Group Limited, Mr. Mike Upere, presenting award nomination letter to the Queen Consort of Warri Kingdom, Olori Atuase III, as Social Impact Person of the Year 2024 in Warri Delta State. The award means a lot. That's coming from the recipient. Let's quickly go to this Nigerian newspaper, and by the side piece of the motorists happy over slight reduction in pump price of petroleum. You find the details on page 4. Deportation, $20 billion U.S. Nigeria diaspora remittance at risk. With riders, stakeholders warn unemployment may rise with return of illegal immigrants. Urge federal government to improve on infrastructure, health, education, and push for industrialization to create jobs. Side piece of the picture story, Abuja bus terminal construction generates over 300 jobs, say project manager. Budget increase can lead to inflation, exchange rate volatility. That's coming from a finance expert. At the bottom plate of this, Nigeria, vehicles, shops destroyed in the Niger gas explosion as business owners count losses. And the picture story, you see their dignity in labor. A physically challenged person selling pure water on the pedestrian bridge in Lugbe in Abuja yesterday. Interesting times.
Very interesting indeed. I have the Daily Trust newspaper, and just below the nameplates, you can't relocate Palestinians to Saudi land. Arab nation tell Netanyahu. Cashless payment, commuters protest, delay at Kefi Akwanga Road toll gate. Details on page 3. How I lost 6 family members to kidney disease. Yobe local government chairman. Details of that story on page 7. And the major headline reads, manufacturers' orders decry new 4% levy on imports. Say it can raise inflation higher. Saraki faults action. Customs explains policy. Then we have the vehicles, properties burned as gas station explodes in Niger State. Details on page 8. 2 drug lords excrete 125 heroin wraps at Lagos Port Harcourt airports. Details on page 17. Naira strengthens by 45 naira against dollar. Details on page 19. Real estate sector to hit 2 trillion in 2025 federal government. Details on page 23. Chooks?
How I lost how many relatives?
6
to kidney disease.
Yeah.
This is one area that needs more and more education, health tips. When I took my wife to Garki Hospital, they said, please, sir, we need to keep this sugar level down always. We have to use insulin at a stage, but thank God she's not in that category. Do you know why we do it? The lady told me, if you do not reduce the sugar level steadily, keep it, it reduces something they call ketones into the liver and into the kidney,
kidneys.
and over time, the person truly develops
kidney problem.
We need a lot of education to our people. Lives can be saved. I was very happy the way I was tutored.
Okay.
But the dark side again is, now the person speaking is a big man, so he could have afforded...
Chairman local government.
Well, kidney disease for 6 people. I don't know whether the person could afford dialysis, for 6 people when they got to end stage medication for a renal problem. How much was he able to release for the treatment of these people? Takes me to my next plea, which is regular here. Government, please make dialysis free. Please make dialysis free. It's become a death sentence on middle-income earners.
But
We're talking about something about 70,000 in a week at least to run the... Who can afford that?
For one person.
If you go to the hospital, they'll tell you if you are under NHIS, they can only do it for you. The first 2 sessions will be free, but after that, where does that leave you?
You got to pay.
You have to pay. I am pleading with government. But having said that, I am happy that cesarean section 3 months ago was declared free. But even then, in terms of execution, implementation...
Free in government hospitals.
Of course, free in government. Never the
not private.
The private hospitals, some of them almost tell you, we are here for profit, on a very big signpost, So if you go there, now you know what you find. But then, those who can afford it would always go there.
You always go there because they are there to complement government.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I am happy that 3 months ago, government pronounced that cesarean section would be free, for people who go to government hospitals. Look at the statistics. 1,047 deaths are reported per 100,000 live births in Nigeria. That's not good enough.
That's not good.
It's not good at all.
That's not good.
The ratio is too high. The ratio is too high, So we have to do something about it. Again, public enlightenment matters. At the end of the day, they are trying to remove the financial barriers to life-saving childbirth procedures, as well as reduce maternal mortality. Woman not going to enter trouble because they won't bring Peking, come join us for this world. We have to do all we can to make sure that her life is retained and that it is not a scare, doing things that would make you get pregnant. I think that is very, very, very important.
There should be education too on people agreeing to go for cesarean section.
That's the public enlightenment I talked about.
Some people will say they won't go for cesarean. They want to be the Hebrew woman. And at the end of the day, they die. I don't know whoever told them that a Hebrew woman, they don't have a cesarean job.
There's nothing wrong in being an Hebrew woman, but I think you have to do it from the point of knowledge.
You see, so that your faith doesn't become a gateway to suicide.
Yes, to suicide.
That's a good one, my dear.
Yes, yes.
Your faith should never become a gateway to suicide. Hebrew woman, fine. Faith really works for those who believe in it. But do not engage in blind faith.
Yeah,
the God that has provided the doctors has already gone a long way by showing you the pathway to your regaining good health. So why don't you use it? It's God that helped us get to the level of medicine we are at the moment. That's it.
I remember my mom, when she was going to have a baby, we never knew. She just says she's coming, she's going to the market, she'll just pick her basket. The next thing we see her coming in with the baby.
Woman.
The next time we see her coming in with the baby, and we used to think that she used to go and buy it in the market.
Actually, some women are just like that.
Yes.
The only thing we see, the next thing she's had a baby. I said, which kind of woman be this?
Well, on the last note, we have some good news. FCT bus terminal construction generates 3,000
jobs.
That's a good one.
A job for the boys, because there are so many people.
Boys and girls.
Boys and girls. Well, boys is generic here.
Girls can also drive the buses now. Who says they can't?
You female activists.
We see women driving train and in other countries driving buses and all. Why can't we do it in Nigeria?
But nobody is debarring you from doing it.
You are joining Claire.
I'm encouraging girls to go and apply and get the job too.
They're not stopping you. Nobody is stopping you.
You were the middle course. You're not joining Yere and Claire. When they say man shall not live by bread alone, they mean man and woman now. You want us to say men and women should not live by bread alone.
Yes. And on that note, I have to let you go so that you go slowly, work out slowly, and go home. Thank you so much, Chukwudi, for coming.
Good morning, my dear.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure too.
We'll take a break. When we return, our conversation on constitutional amendment on the creation of states will begin. Don't go away.
The currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient? If you must worry, then worry about winning. Why worry about germs? When you come home, bring tales and stories. Why bring in germs?
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
Sometimes great things are worth waiting for. And for those who crave and wait, the experience is truly memorable. Introducing the new Dano evaporated milk, a creamy, tasty, nourishing way to start your day.
Enjoy the taste of the new Dano evaporated milk.
Very creamy and delicious. Now that's worth the wait.
Taste it, the richness so amazing. For your cereal, tea and purple, Dano evaporated milk.
Try Dano Full Cream and Dano Cool Cow Evaporated Milk. A great addition to your favorite meals. And taste the Dano difference.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Energy Snacks, snack of future champions.
Milo! The Nigeria coat of arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge.
My people, today now.
Today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
Harmattan season brings a lot of germs, but Dettol with Germ Defense gives protection from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transform every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days.
Milo!
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Welcome to Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis, a TV series dedicated to aging and older persons in Nigeria. Be part of this series and discover the transformative programs crafted to give a new lease of life to our senior citizens, courtesy of the National Senior Citizen Center.
The National Senior Citizen Center is the oasis for the senior citizens.
For thought-provoking discussions on aging, geriatric social care, and issues that matter most to our senior citizens.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Tune in to Silver Oasis on the network service of the NTA every Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Silver Oasis, improving the quality of lives of senior citizens.
just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation on Constitution Amendment, proposed creation of states, here's a background report put together by our correspondent, Timothy Yusuf.
Today, I stand before you to lead this very important debate on the creation of Okura State.
The Deputy Majority Leader of the House of Representatives and representing Omala, Ankpa, and Olamaboro Federal Constituency, Abdullahi Ibrahim Ali Halims, leading the debate for the creation of Okura State in Kogi State. He believes that it, among others, ensure fair distribution of resources, greater development, and a stronger sense of inclusion for the people of Kogi East Senatorial District.
It is worthy of note that the 13 provinces in the then northern Nigeria have all been splitted into 1 or 2 states, in some cases with the exception of Kava province, where the proposed Okura State belong.
Also, former Ogun State Governor and Senator representing Ogun East in the 10th Assembly, Utumba Gbenga Daniel, has pledged impartiality for the creation of Ijebu State from the old Ijebu province and Remo divisions in the present Ogun State. Senator Daniel, intensifying campaign for the creation of the new state recently in Shagamu, noted that other regions established the same time as Ijebu province nearly a century ago have since been divided into multiple states. Other lawmakers and stakeholders are also championing similar cause, like Honorable Halims and distinguished Senator Gbenga Daniel, for the creation of additional states. The background to all of the clamor is that Nigeria is considering a major constitutional amendment that could lead to the creation of 31 new states. The proposal, which has been submitted to the House of Representatives, aims to restructure the country's geopolitical landscape. Findings show that the proposed states are spread across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. Some of the new states proposed in the North Central region include Okura State, Benue Ala State, Okun State, and Apa State. In the Northeast, Amana State, Katagum State, and Savannah State are being proposed. The Southwest region could see the creation of new states like Ijebu State, Ibadan State, Lagun State, and Okeogun State. The South-South region might get new states like Ogoja State, Warri State, and Bori State. It's worthy of note that the proposal is still in its early stages and it's unclear when or if the new states will be created. However, if approved, the constitutional amendment could have significant implications for Nigeria's politics, economy, and social structure. Let's now join our guests in the studio for more insight on the conversation, Constitution Amendment as it relates to proposal for creation of additional states.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now, joining us here in the studio to discuss Constitution Amendment proposed creation of states, let me introduce Shaba Ibrahim. He's a legal practitioner and former member House of Representatives. It's a pleasure to have you, Shaba, in our studio this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Also joining us is our regular Jide Ojo, public analyst. Jide, it's good to see you again today.
It's my pleasure, Ademola and Jumai. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, we have all regulars this morning, and also joining us here in the studio is Cynthia Mbamalu, Director Programs Yaga Africa. It's good to see you after a while.
I know, it's been a while. Good morning and good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning. And also joining us from Ijebu Ife, Ogun State, I'd like to introduce Wale Adejayo, former chairman Ijebu East Local Government Area of Ogun State. You're welcome to the conversation on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen and ladies, let's just look at the perspective on state creation in Nigeria. You know, the pre-independence era, that was 1914 to 1960, Nigeria was a British colony. It was divided into three main regions. We had the northern, the western, and the eastern. And this followed until 1963, when we added the Midwestern region to it, making 4 regions. And the Civil War in 1967 to 1970, General Gowon then created 12 states, and that was done to weaken the secessionist Biafra, state and to promote national unity. And the Second Republic, we had the General Murtala Mohammed again in 1976, created 19 states, increasing the number from 12 to 19. And General Ibrahim Babangida also created 30 states, that is increasing it from 21 to 30 states. And the last one was in 1999 when the states was increased to 36 states. And since then, there have been several attempts to create new states, but none have been successful so far. Now, Shaba, you are a legislature, former one, and you are still, so let's look at what exactly are the constitutional requirements. Let's look at the constitutional requirement for state creation in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I like to say that the concept of state creation as envisaged by the Constitution is something that has to, it's just in the same mold as amending the Constitution itself. It's a very rigorous procedure, and it takes about the same requirement as going through the process of amending the Constitution, which has been made so compact and tedious that in most cases, getting the assent of the major stakeholders, like the 36 states, respective states' houses of assembly, to be able to engender a major constitutional amendment has always been a mirage. And that is the bane of all the agitators. Agitation for state creation all this while. I dare say that while we've had a fairly seamless exercise in the past, albeit with some measure of pressure and what have you, is because most of these states were created through military fiat. And the military, of course, dictatorship in the main that brings little or no challenge to procedures. So I want to say that without shun of going into copious reference to constitutional provisions, it's just the same process as you have with amending the Constitution. And I know Nigeria, particularly in this republic, have been perpetually under amendment. And personally, I wonder why every time particularly every time we have an election, the next thing you see, the parliament is, I even think the committee that is saddled with the duty of amending the Constitution is looking more like a standing committee now. Because perpetually we're amending, and you start asking yourself, what is the problem that you cannot really get right? Instead of amending people and their behaviors, you continue, tinker with, because the problem is really not with the Constitution. I'm sorry, it looks like a digression a little bit.
No,
but yes, the problem is not with the Constitution, it's with those who are running it, the people who are supposed to be running it. But each time, rather than think about ourselves, those who are in the saddle and supposed to give life to constitutional provision, we run rings around them perpetually by trying this amendment that, with all due respect, in some cases I consider very idle, because amendments have never really been able to solve the problems without a major attitudinal change on the part of the operators of the Constitution. So coming back home, it's not an easy exercise, but it's not an impossible thing too. The Parliament is there to look into the applications or the request for creation of more states, and I think barring any unforeseen circumstance, it looks like majority of the people seem determined this time to get this done. And I think that may resonate well at the state level too, because the respective state houses of assembly have a role to play, a very vital one in that too. But I don't know, a lot depends on their excellencies. You know, those who hold sway at the state level, what they make, yes, it's without gainsaying that the houses of assembly have not been able to really win themselves of the overbearing influence of their excellencies. These are people who in the past have even voted against their own independence. So, I mean, when you have those kind of situation, then there's a little bit of suspicion. How seamless is this going to be? But the next coming weeks would really unveil a lot.
So you think they are going to be able to meet the constitutional requirement for the change?
Yeah, you see, the problem is having a unanimity of purpose. There are those who may think that, look, I have not got it. Let me tell you, this, even if you create this, it won't end the agitation, I can assure you. If Nigeria is, if Nigerians are what I know, nothing is ever enough for us here. And so I think, yes, if the politicians and those who are the stakeholders are really, really determined to have it, then it may just resonate across the respective state houses of assembly and they will pass it. I think that's where the major challenge is. The will is really not at the, amending the constitution is not just a National Assembly issue. It is at that state level where there are people who controls the lever of the legislative activities.
And also the local government that will be affected as well.
Absolutely.
They're expected to have inputs in it.
Absolutely. So I think, let me, at the risk of saying the obvious, a lot depends on the mood of their excellencies.
Yeah, a lot depends on the mood of the excellencies.
If they buy into it, it's going to work. The respective states houses of assembly would key in and we're going to have it done. I mean, this is what, without prejudice to the merit or demerit of the exercise, which I believe would have to talk about.
Yes, we all know that the constitutional amendment is a long road, and are we ready to be on that road, Jide Ojo? You know, the agitation for states have been on for a very long time. Some were created and some were just kept in view. Now they are coming up, and states are saying, we want more states, we want to create more states. Nigeria has 36 states, like Bukar Mandara would say, and Abuja 37 of blessed memory, yes. And, you know, why do we need more states?
I wish I could say, give you reasons why we need more states, particularly at this time, but I'm not convinced we do need. Let's take the angle of the proponents is that they want development to percolate, get to the grassroots, and they inch their agitation on marginalization and discrimination within the boundaries where they are now. So they want, it's more of identity politics stuff. You know, they want to be, as Honorable said, they want to have their own enclave. But sincerely speaking, and I've weighed in on this issue, in the last 1 week, this is about the 4th media platform where I'm discussing this issue. And I've checked the Constitution, Section 8, subsection 1, A to D. It's like passing through the eye of the needle. It's even tougher than what Honorable is talking about. Because it talks about referendum.
Yes.
It talks about referendum among the people where you want to excise another state, and 2/3 of the people must support. And that means INEC will have to be involved. So it's not just a legislative exercise. Somebody will have to conduct, and 2/3 of the people in that constituency where you want to cover must be in support. Likewise, the local government, and then even the presentation, you could see a lot of ignorance in the mode and manner in which everybody is demanding for this. They are sending in memorandum. It's not about memorandum. I think many of those who submitted, all of them, if not, I should think all of them, did not even read the constitutional provision to even know the mode of submission for a alteration of the constitution to create state. Because if you check what Benjamin Kalu, Deputy Speaker, said, you are just sending in requests for state creation by means of memorandum or private member bill. When the law is very explicit that there are processes which involve members of the Senate, members of the House of Reps, members of the State House of Assembly, and the Constitution. That is even to submit a request, not even to start working. The process is like you want to submit a visa application. You have to fill a form. That form gives details of your biodata, your income, and all of that. So they even goofed on that count that all the 31 requests did not follow due process, which is why the House of Reps is throwing it back to them. Go and do the needful, follow due process, and then we give you 1 month within which to do this. By March 5, the door will be closed. Maybe by March 5, the number will have even risen from 31 to 70 or thereabout. But it's their own business. Let's look at the merit. The issue for me is this. Why we are talking about marginalization, discrimination, but as the Constitution not taking care of that, if we follow due process, if we implement our Constitution, the way and manner in which it is envisaged, will we be having this kind of agitation? Now, I looked at the Constitution even yesterday. I look at Section 14. First, Section 14, sub 2b talks about security and welfare of citizens being the primary purpose of government. Then go to subsection 3. Section 14, sub 3 says that for national unity and national loyalty, there should be what? Federal character principle adopted in terms of appointment and even citing of projects. Has that been followed? If there is federal character principle, will you be talking about marginalization or discrimination? Then subsection 4 of section 14 of the Constitution now even went to the state, talked about the state also having to follow similar due, kind of federal character arrangement up to local government. I'm just paraphrasing. So any concrete details of that, if we follow that, there should be no cry of marginalization or discrimination by any tribe or ethnic group within a state. Because, see, I don't care who is my governor. What I want is good governance. If I can aspire, my children can aspire, they have jobs, they are doing well in their respective careers, why should I bother about who the president or who the governor or local government chairperson of my state is? But because we have personalized governance, so you become governor and all development is focused on your senatorial district, your local government is getting the lion's share. So it becomes a turn-by-turn thing. And because there's the negation of that federal character principle is what is pushing people. Now, you say you want a sense of belonging. I know there are, because of lack of proper implementation, people truly could be said to be politically marginalized. Take, for instance, the Igbos have never been the civilian president of Nigeria. So we have an IPOP, we have MASOP pushing for political inclusion. Then in states, even in your state, we have the people of Okeogun that have never been governor since the state was created in 1976. And then they are pushing that, why is it Ibadan people and the Ogbomoso people that have always produced governor? Why can't we have a rotation? Then the people in Ogun State, the Ogun West people are the one. I'm even surprised that Ijebus are requesting for a governor. For a state, because from the time of Bison Obanjo to even the Dapo Abiodun to Gbenga Daniel, they have had a fair share of at least being in the #1 seat of the state. But the people of Ogun West, which we call Yewa people, are the one, Yewa for Awori people have never been governor. So you come to Benue, the Idoma are crying that, oh, they have never been governor. The Igedes are even far behind because in terms of population size, they don't even measure up to Idoma. But see, if you play politics of exclusion, you will continue to have this kind of agitation. But the solution is not state creation. Like Honorable said, create additional 50. There will still be agitation.
Yeah.
Because in the South-South region, the Ijaws are the one dominating. So the BBOs will come up and say, why is it only Ijaws? And I've drawn references all globally. In Sudan, the people of South Sudan felt the North, the Arab North, was their problem. So for many years, they fought war. They eventually, in 2011, they gave them a country, South Sudan country. But look at what is happening between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. They have not, from 2013 to date.
Even with the oil.
Even with your Abuja and the rest of it. They only enjoyed 2 years of peace. 2011 to 2013. From 2013, go and check history. The number of internally displaced persons, refugees that have been in South Sudan, which is more like homogeneous. They are mostly Christians. They are mostly. So, is it Arab that is their problem now? So the grass is greener on the other side. I was one of those who created. I mean, it's on record that I demanded for creation of Osun State in 1991. It was granted. Today, you see people say, if Ejesha people are dominating us, why is it that the Oyo people are marginal? Why? It will always be like that. Kogi, you know, the Oku people have always been saying, why is power not coming to us? Why is it Igala? Igala dominated. Now Yahya Bello got there and said, we should have our 16 years of uninterrupted. And that's where the problem is. If we follow due process of federal character principles so that there is no domination, there is no discrimination, but overarching issue is lack of good governance. That's why identity politics sells. That's why my tribe must produce a governor for me to have access to good schools, to education, to health facilities, to have access to good roads, to have access to social amenities. It should not be.
Okay.
Whether you are a governor, you are a president, you should be, spread the benefit of governance to everybody. And people would not be more concerned about who is their governor or who is their councillor or their local government chairperson.
I know you are very passionate about this issue, Jide. But let's bring in the lady now, Cynthia. I mean, you have listened to the contribution of the two guests. And he hammered on the fact that it's not really about creation of state, but attitudinal change. And he is saying that what we need is good governance. Now, what's your perspective on this issue? And also bearing in mind that even the civil society groups are also supposed to, be part of this, amendment.
Well, I think I agree with the submissions made already. And that is because at the heart of this, honestly, is the question of inequality and the demands for recognition. And so I do not blame the agitations, because where there is a gap, where there is a vacuum, and the vacuum has existed for so long, there's a likelihood for agitations to emerge. And that is what we have seen consistently. You have demands for creation of states. And then one of the arguments is we want to bring government closer to the people. And I say on that front, we have local government. Can we focus on ensuring we have independent, autonomous, and functional local government? Because that is also the idea of local government, of a third tier of government, is to bring government closer to the people. The second agitation is a sense of exclusion. We're not part of the system. And unfortunately, what we've had so far is we've had a system of leadership that has consistently failed to deliver to the people. So what we've had basically is a rascality mentality to political leadership that is basically driven by inordinate ambition and selfish desires. And so when people get elected, they forget that sovereignty belongs to the people, and you exercise your power on behalf of the people as enshrined in our constitution. And so they focus on their immediate needs and their own people, in quote. And so what we've had is, for those that have not felt a sense of representation, they equate that to the lack that they experience. And so to them, if my person is not seated on the seats of power, I wouldn't have access to opportunities and to benefit. And that is where the fundamental question is. So I always say, for me, the threat to our democracy, honestly, is our political leaders. We're yet to have a political class that understands the power that they wield, and that power is to represent the people in the best possible way. And the third part of the conversation is, in all of these agitations, the people, I think a lot of conversations have failed to understand what the Constitution says. And that is where I would put the blame on Nigeria. A lot of us don't read our Constitution. We don't even know what our rights are. Our Constitution is clear. From the preamble, is a state established 3 principles: freedom, equality, and justice. And sections 14, I'm so glad Mr. Didi Ojo mentioned sections 14, because it talks about Nigeria is a system that will be based on the principles of democracy and social justice. Now, social justice has been missing. And so for me, the demand would rather be, we need to experience some sense of justice across board. That is one agitation I'm hoping we would start pushing for. And then the freedom, equality, and justice. Those principles are implemented in every part of our constitution, but we do not experience it in our daily lives. And so when we think about what the constitution says and what we experience in reality, there is a big gap. And so if you think about the agitations, for me, I do believe that everyone can make an agitation, you can make a proposal. Like Jide says, it's a very difficult process. You need a referendum, you need 2/3 of the legislative council. So it's not just the National Assembly and the House of Assemblies, legislative councils. How many local governments, how many states have elections for local government, and we have local councils exercising their legislative powers at the local level? That also in itself is a big challenge. So if you think about this agitation, I would say for me, the focus for Nigerians and to every citizen listening now is, for those we have elected, how are we holding them accountable to deliver on their mandates? That's one. The second is, for the states that exist, are they economically viable? Last year, budget released the report. It is state of states report, and it did analysis of how states are functioning. In its report, only 5 states, the report released last year, only 5 states could manage to stand independently without federal allocations. Those states were Rivers, Lagos, Ogun, Cross River, and Anambra. And those were the states that managed to improve on their IGR, internal generated revenue, in a way that even if federal allocation did not come, they could manage. A majority of the states, about 29, could not on its own stand without federal allocations. That's one. States like Jigawa, Yobe, Imo, Bayelsa, Taraba they rely more than 100%, over 100% on federal allocations. So if you think about what we have currently, we have a system where there is supposedly a federal structure, but we still have an over-reliance on the federal government. So the question should be, for every state governor, for every state that has state governors, how are you internally ensuring that, one, you're creating an enabling environment for business and investment in your state to increase and improve your IGR? How are you ensuring that you're minimizing operational costs in a way to maximize resources that you have? How are you ensuring that you're delivering on the needs of the people in the state? And so the agitations, for me, like Honorable said, creating more states would not solve the problem, because the states we have currently are struggling to survive on their own. And it's not because Nigeria is not blessed. If you do a map of resources in Nigeria, every state in Nigeria is blessed with one resource or the other. In fact, we have not harnessed the potential in the resources in the northwest and the northeast. That is a part of Nigeria that has so much mineral resources that could be used as bargaining chip in the global market. In the whole conversation around the the stoppage of USAID, of aid, foreign aid, and all of that. And people are saying African leaders need to wake up. It's not just about the president, not about Tinubu. It's about the 36 state governors. It's about every state assembly, national assembly. It's about every local government chairman and councillors. Because at the end, when we talk about a country being economically viable, it's about a country that has been able to achieve development from the local level to the bottom top. Development doesn't come from the top to the bottom. The idea for federal system, which was what when Nigeria had moved to the idea to have a Nigeria of a federation was, this is a big country, diverse, and population-wise we're large. And so if you want to ensure an effective system of governance, you need to ensure you have government at every level, so that you do not have a disconnect at any level. And as it is now, we are not fulfilling that particular requirement of a federal system. And so for me, we should, as a people, go back to the governors and say, what are you doing to ensure our states are economically viable? Because creating new states will not get things done. And I think the last agitation was people said, oh, we need our ethnic group represented. Nigeria, data shows we have about 371 ethnic groups in Nigeria, and about over 500 languages spoken in this country. I think Taraba State alone has about 80 languages. So if we want to even say we want to create states in line with our ethnic and language configurations, it means we're just going to be, it's going to be a bazaar of states. And at the end, we will not achieve the development that we want. And I think this is a distraction. As a people, there's an amendment of the constitution ongoing. Perhaps the focus should be, should we start pushing for a review of the exclusive and concurrent list, to move certain things to concurrent list, to strengthen the state government? Should we look at local government autonomy to strengthen the local government to ensure they are functioning? And should we look at the powers of the president and how the National Assembly and state assemblies functioning? Because if we get these systems to work, I bet you that Nigerians will begin to experience, the dividends of democracy that we all hope for. At this point, this is just a distraction, and honestly, we need to get back to our constitution and refocus on strengthening the arms of government. The levels of government, and getting them to be functional.
And getting them right. I like the fact that you said it's rascality mentality that is, pushing the justification for creation of states. And I also like the fact that you said a local government would only function properly if it is independent, autonomous, and functioning well. And when we're growing up, the local governments were very powerful. A local government was more powerful than the governor. When you go to their office, you see a lot of people waiting to see the local government, and there was so much development. Secondary school, primary health care were functioning, they were working properly. We wonder what happened along the way. Did we lose it? Now let's go to Ijebu, where Wale Adedayo is Adedayo, former chairman, Ijebu East local government. You've been listening to this conversation in the studio from all our guests here, and we've been discussing the justification for creation of new states, and there are also issues arising. You've been a local government chairman, and Ijebu is looking for a state, and Jide Ojo is saying that, well, you've had the best part of the pie. So why are you going for a state now? Let's get your opinion on that.
Before I go into that, I want to give it to the last speaker that she spoke my mind, and I'm sure that she spoke the mind of right-thinking Nigerians, those who really believe in the development of this country. Because if you look at the trajectory that America is bringing up now, especially with the policies of the Trump administration, I'm very, very certain that European countries, they're going to have their own far-right governments very soon. So if that should happen, a lot of our people who are doing JAPA, that they want to travel abroad, that will become more difficult. So it means that we have to stay here and salvage the country together. So coming back to the issue of, I'll start from local government before moving to state creation. It is the fundamental for the development of any country that, like she rightly pointed out, development comes from the bottom up. Once the bottom is crooked, there's nothing, absolutely nothing you can get at the top. It is not possible. And talking about state creation, I want to believe that, I don't know his mind, I'm not a seer or a prophet, but I want to believe 100% in my own mind that Mr. President, it is part of his vision for his administration that there should be new state. And to me, that is why he started with this financial autonomy for local governments. What he just needs to do is to go on to that of political, or what I would say, administrative autonomy as well. Because if it doesn't get to that level, like the last speaker said, then we'll still continue moving around in the same circle. Because if the local governments are okay and everybody is working the way they should work, for God's sake, the states will have little to do. And to seriously help the efforts of the federal government once the local governments are doing what they are supposed to do. But in terms of Ijebu State specifically, for equity's sake, when you were starting this program, you were talking about colonies that were created by the colonial administration at that time. Ijebu province was one of those provinces, and virtually all the other provinces have become states. In fact, some of the provinces, they become two states now. Kano has become two states, Oyo has become two states, Ondo has become two states. Only Ijebu is remaining. I mean, what is the offense of Ijebu people? And talking about viability, Ijebu State will be very, very viable because not just in the southwest, across the country, it is known that Ijebus, they are born economists. Even in the colonial days, before independence, we are known as merchants all over the place. There is no way that this part of Nigeria will not be viable. Personally, I don't believe in this too much of federal allocation because, like she rightly pointed out the other time, a lot of our states depend on federal allocation to survive. Without federal allocation, many of them will just go down, and nothing will happen there. But concerning Ijebu State, it is I mean, we are close to the ocean. That means we have viable seaports there. Agric will not be a problem for us. Loads and loads of mineral resources here. We have the largest deposit of bitumen in my own local government, for instance, in Nigeria. We have the largest deposit of bitumen in my local government. We have gold and all kind of things. So for me, I have no doubt about it that if Ijebu State is created, believe me, it's going to be very, very... In fact, the target is that we want to rival Lagos State because we are very, very close to Lagos. Lagos is a commercial nerve center of Nigeria. Whoever is coming to Lagos must, of necessity, pass through Ijebu State. Coming from the east, coming from the south side, coming from the north, you have to pass through Ijebu State to get into Lagos. And what we try to do as much as possible is to make sure that whatever business you want to do, for God's sake, why not do it here? Whatever facilities you are looking for in Lagos, whatever thing you are looking for in Lagos, you might as well get it here and get the job done here instead of traveling all the way down to Lagos. If it is ports, we have an airport here now. The port is there, so we don't have any problem of such here. This is going to be a very, very viable state, no doubt about it at all. No doubt about it. But kudos to the last speaker. I really give it to her. She got the issues right and the solutions to it as well. Thank you, my sister. God bless you.
You've not really answered the question I asked you. What I specifically asked you is, people from Ijebu have ruled the state since 1999. What did they do to make sure that the state is above par with other states? You have termined so many things that you have in Ijebu land, and you've had governors from that area. Why did they not harness that prospect now?
Well, the first civilian governor of Ogun State, Chief Olabisi Onabanjo, was governor 1979 to 1983, and I can assure you that he did very well with that during his tenure, in terms of education, in terms of rural development, in terms of healthcare. A lot of his projects are still there because some of the major markets, which you say modern in Ogun State today, they were built by him. And when you're talking about schools too, education, even Ogun State University was built during his tenure. So he did a lot along that line. He did a lot along that line too.
Okay, Mr. Adedayo, you're trying, we understand your perspective now, trying to give us the reason why you think that Ijebu State will be very viable. And just like she was asking that you've had several governors in Ogun State that were from Ijebu's region, and why haven't we seen that kind of development, especially when it comes to the potentials that you attributed to the Ijebu people? But we'll come back to you. Let's come back to the studio now. Shaba, you have heard the different discussions now. Let's now look at the the political impact of creating, and the economic, how it will shape the economic landscape, and because you have to start drawing the boundaries, the borders, and all that. What political impact and economic impact will it have on the nation?
Thank you very much. I would like to talk about, if you don't mind, viability, as everybody seems to be latching in on it, viability of states, whether the current states we have are viable or not. To me, it is relative within the confines of what we have today. Viability is relative. You talk about viability, in the real economic sense, you probably have only 3 or so states that are viable. And you ask yourself, why are the rest not viable? It does not have to do with, you talk about viability and you exclude things like federal allocation. It's also part of the resources agreeable to a state. It is the right of the states to receive federal allocation, because under the Minerals Act, for instance, most of the resources within the geographical confines of it belongs to the federal government. So if money is realizable from then and the taxes of the people are being plowed back by way of allocation to the states, you do not say the states are not viable because those monies are not originating from but the resources that give back to those monies are also coming from those states, so those should also count.
So what do they do with the resources, with the finances?
We will get to the level of devolution of powers. We must move certain things from the exclusive to the concurrent list, and perhaps the residual list, if you don't mind, because there is over concentration. States are not viable, not because they are not potentially viable. It's mainly because we have the over-concentration of opportunities and powers in the center. If every state, I come from Kogi State, when a speaker has alluded to the fact that certain regions in the country have a lot of mineral resources, I stand to be corrected. There's no section of this country, region of this country that has as more solid mineral resources as the north central Nigeria. So if we're talking about that, if we decide that, look, let viability be contingent upon the devolution of powers so that states can manage effectively their resources, then most states will be viable, because there is no state. If you are not viable through mineral resources, you are viable through agriculture, you are viable through oil and everything. And talking about oil, virtually everywhere has oil today. So all are potentially viable. If we are going to develop the states along the trajectory of, mineral resources available within the confines of each state, so fine and good. Let the federal, those who are at the center, spread this. For instance, there is little or no argument that there is oil in several other places apart from the areas that we know are producing oil today. Let the government, let's have a transition period. Let's develop equally, have equal opportunity of getting the federal resources to develop this resource. Then you devolve to the states. Then everybody will be fine, in my humble estimation. Then if you take it a bit lower, we've talked about local government autonomy. It's very, very key. Unfortunately, we are running a system that seems to have shaped to adopting a bit of an aberration for normal. So unless that is strengthened, we're going to have issues. The local governments, for instance, I keep talking about their excellencies. Their excellencies are not happy. With all due respect to them, most of them are not happy with the idea of the local governments. They have this suffocating grip. I've been a chairman of local government.
Local government autonomy. Yes, they are not excited about it.
They are not at all. Some have even had the audacity to speak openly against it. I like to think by parity of reasoning, if the federal government was doing to the states what the states are doing to the local councils, whether this country would be livable for anybody. So I think what is sauce for the good should be sauce for the gander. The constitution may not be perfect, but if we give, that's why I say we have to have this attitudinal change. We've amended this constitution more than the number of years we've even operated it, with all due respect. And I'm thinking that if we have an attitudinal change, let those who are in power today also realize that they are not going to be there forever. Let them know, allow the local governments to breathe, for instance. I've had calls to be on programs where these issues are discussed, and I've shouted myself out. My little experience at that level shows that the local governments can have their own potential if they have their own potentials. If the states will allow, look at the kind of humongous resources that have been channeled to the local governments today. Even the states have their own. I want to give that credit to the center because a lot of money is going to the states, going to the local government. But where are they? There's nothing on ground to reflect the volume of cash that is being taken.
But analysts also say politics stifled the local governments.
Absolutely. That has always been my position. Political will. The governors have come to see the local governments as their personal fiefdoms. They look at it as, if you say give them autonomy, it looks like you are taking away a chunk
of their power.
And I don't think that should be so. If we run a unitary government system, for instance, they too would be on that suffocating grip. And I'm not sure there will be any attraction. But coming back to the...
Do you see this creation of new states as a kind of trying to balance power between the states and the local government? Because some of these local government will automatically, become a state. From what from so is it a way of trying to balance power between?
It's a cocktail of factors.
Okay.
It's a cocktail of factors. It's not just a one-off thing. There are those who seek to balance power. There are those who say they are running away from domination. You understand? If you look at just like some example, I don't want to go into direct examples so that people don't get offended. But it's like those who are in the shadows somewhere, once they miss it for a little, just a little while, they are now agitating to create states for themselves. Because ab initio, that ownership mentality has been ingrained in them for them to think that this belongs to us. And the moment you are not in the saddle, howsoever temporary, you seek a state that. But let me sound a caveat. Okay. Even if you do, within the confines of those same states, you're going to hear cries of marginalization.
Okay.
Just like...
Yes. But the ultimate thing, and let me tell you why these agitations will not die easy. If others are not viable, like I said, is relative, and yet they can also take resources from the center, and we are at the receiving end. Because this agitation can be subjective. You may look at other people's pain and say, why are they saying this? But those who feel it know it. But my own panacea, for this is to make certain provisions of the Constitution. He's made very copious reference to some. Make them justiciable.
Okay.
If you say like the fundamental principle and objective, fundamental directive and objective principle of state policy, those provisions are there to guide, but they are hardly justiciable. You can't go to court to enforce.
Okay.
Unless you did that,
we're having...
you will not be able to realize some of
Okay, Honorable Shaba, let's bring in Jido Ojo to this conversation. Honorable Shaba has, raised some pertinent questions. I also, captioned it as a cocktail of, factors that, might help in state creation and might not justify the state creation. This conversation has raised a lot of discussion on the media space, and a lot of Nigerians are talking, but the fundamental part of this state creation is, do the people who the politicians are agitating for even know what it means?
Of course they don't, and they don't care.
And they matter.
They really don't care. Ordinary citizens don't care. Go and do an opinion survey. People care more about how governance affects them individually. It's people like Honorable Shaba and my brother in Ijebufe that wants to be governor of, and let me give us the financial implication of what we're asking for. Because be wary of what you're asking for. Be careful what you're asking for. Right now, Ademola and Juma, right now, only very few states spend up to 40% on capital expenditure. Most states spend 70-80% on recurrent, which means cost of governance is consuming the larger chunk of what you get.
Yes.
Now, if you create any state, even let's take FCT, you are going to have minimum of 24 State House of Assembly members because it's in the Constitution.
Yes.
According to the Constitution, the minimum number of State House of Assembly is 24, maximum is 40. You are going to have more than two House of Reps member that FCT currently have. You are going to have 3 senators. See, you are
increasing the cost of governance.
Cost of governance. So where then will you free resources to do the roads, to do the hospitals, and to build schools? So you are just going to exponentially increase cost of governance. Estacos, governors will appoint aides who are not adding values. So you look at it from that point of view. You now ask yourself, so 109 senators will increase by, if we go by 31 now, multiply 31, that's 93. 93 plus 109. That is the number of senators you are going to have.
That's 200 and
whatever. Then you have 360 members of House of Reps now. You multiply that by whatever, it's also a constitutional issue. Because this one constitutional alteration will affect several other provisions in the Constitution. So it's not just isolating and saying we have created states. You have to also do consequential amendment of those constitutional provisions that have already pegged certain things to certain numbers. So why do we want to go that route?
It will also affect the Electoral Act itself.
That is what I'm saying. It's going to affect cost of running elections. You don't get it. INEC will need maybe 3 times what he's spending now. INEC asked for 126 billion in 2025. People were shouting, hey, 126 billion to do what? Just personnel cost of INEC is 87 billion. Personnel cost. So you create more states, INEC, and you better do it now if you want to create any more state, because INEC is going to release the calendar for 2027, maybe in January next year. It has to be 1 year ahead. So how then will INEC start planning for those new states to provide, senatorial elections? Parties will have to now start thinking how to conduct primaries. So you can see that it's not just, it looks so appealing on paper, but the mental, intellectual thoughts that should go into it, we have not fathomed it. Because it's going to it's going to have ripple effect. And just imagine, people are crying for that the roads are deplorable, they don't have pipe-borne water, they don't have electricity, they don't have and then you are still thinking of, okay, assuming without considering that you are spending 5 trillion to run government across the country today. If you create double, you are going to need double that amount to run governance. Then where will you get resources to now deliver the dividends? Because it's not just about political exclusion. The Igbos that we are agitating that they should be president. If anybody from Igbo extraction today becomes president of Nigeria, is he going to take the entire resources of Nigeria to go and develop his village or his town or zone? There will be checks and balances. When the Jaws have never been president, they were clamoring for marginalization and all of that. So we have a good Lord Jonathan for 5 years. And then you go back to Niger Delta region. How much impact has his being president felt by ordinary citizens? We Yorubas have had Obasanjo, we are having Tinubu. Yet, last year in Oyo State, people were clamoring for military to come and take over. If they are feeling the impact of governance, would they be saying, come and take over military? So you will find out that the missing gap actually is good governance. For ordinary citizens, they would rather have good roads, good hospitals, good schools, give them scholarship, make life abundant for them. Let them be able to afford basic necessities of life. Give them cheap accommodation or housing units that they can pay over here. And that way, they don't care whether it's an Okuman that is a governor in Kogi State, or is a Galama, or is an Ebirama.
Okay,
likewise in Borno State. So all of this, we need to think it through. The implication, the financial implication, and that's why my sister, Cynthia, make a very, very valid point. I think it was also supported by Honorable. Let's devolve powers. Devolve powers from the exclusive legislative, bring it to concurrent legislative with corresponding revenue sharing formula.
Okay.
Because
Jide.
we have to also review the revenue sharing formula in support of those you have devolved powers to.
All right, thank you, Jide. I know if we let you be, you can finish the program. But we'll take a break now. So when we come back, we know that you are so passionate about good governance. But when we come back, we're coming back to Cynthia so that we can have more of your thought on this. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
Harmattan season brings a lot of germs, but Dettol with germ defense gives protection from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so. Impossible. Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transform every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days.
Milo!
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Imagine a system where you're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
Welcome back. It's still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And our discussion today is still on the creation of more states in Nigeria. Now, before we went on break, Jide spoke to us and he harped more on the issue of good governance. And Cynthia, earlier on when you spoke, you also talked about the need for good governance, freedom, equity, and social justice, and the need for the devolution of power. We're looking at the economic and the social implication of this state creation now. Let's have your perspective on it. He has spoken, and let's get your own perspective.
I agree with the submission of Mr. Jide Ojo. I agree partly with some of his submission, because I do believe that states being economically viable is not relative. You're either economically viable or you're not. And I don't like to make excuses for governors and their failures. But I'm glad he keeps talking about the excellencies and the problem of the excellencies. Because sadly, we're having governors that are acting like emperors. You want the federal government to ensure your allocation gets to you, but you do not want to release allocation to the local government. You want to hold it on. So it's like, I will receive and hold on. But you're not even holding it to do the work. You're holding it for your own self. And so what we've had is a system where at the state level, there's a lot of reliance on what comes from the federal, but a little emphasis on how the state should run its own governance and ensure that the local government, which the Constitution says that the governors, state governors, are to ensure that democratically elected local government exists. And there is that mandate on the state to ensure that local governments exist and that they are democratically structured, meaning that you have elections periodically and people are given the freedom to act at that level. And so for me, if I want to have in all of this conversation, is that first, every state receives allocation. What do you do with your allocation? But any state that only relies on federal allocation is a state that is not ready to function. And so it's not just about the allocation you receive, it's about what you are doing internally. I talked about IGR, the internally generated revenue. What are you doing internally to generate revenue? The few states that are doing that, very minimum number of states that are doing that, what are they doing? Are there opportunities for peer learning across states to see how are these states developing themselves? That's one. The second, when I talked about the evolution of power, I do believe that where we are now, there are certain things that need to move to the concurrent list, and there are certain things that need to move to the residual list. So the fourth schedule around the local government, but then the exclusive and concurrent, so that there is some level of power sharing with regards to how minerals and agriculture and fishery and all the things that enable production at the state level has some level of shared powers. I do believe that is something we need to consider in this review of our constitution. I'm big on local government autonomy because I still believe that that is one place where there is a bigger problem. Currently, governors do not allow local governments to exist. It's sad to hear even some governors saying that local governments are not third tier of government. And I'm like, are you not reading the constitution? I mean, you became governor and you forgot the constitution, because most times we lie to ourselves. And I think the other point for me, when we talk about the agitations that are coming from the different levels, is to address that bigger question of how do you bridge the gap between the government and the people. Currently, you have, I think it was Mr. Jide that made a reference to, even in Oyo State, you had at one point, we've had a president from the Southwest. We've had Obasanjo, we have Tinubu, but when the coup happened in Niger, we had Nigerians from every extraction, both from the Southwest, asking that maybe it's time the military comes and take over. You have younger people who do not remember our military history. They are telling you that, we heard that when the times were good, it was the military that were in power, so maybe we need to go back. And it's not because the military worked. It's not because democracy is a problem. It's because what we are calling democracy, is still a sort of dictatorship that has sidelined the people, excluded the voices of the people, and left governance or politics to be driven by 1% of the population and wealth to be shared between 1% of the population. And so what the whole conversation now is, we need to bridge the gap between the government and the people, all those elected at the local level, at the state and the federal level. Go back to your people. The reason you have younger people looking for exit routes, the reason you have this level of jackpot mentality, the reason you have this agitation for military is because they think the government as it is failing them. And so for them, the alternative is either to leave or to ask for an alternative to democracy. And I do believe that at this point, where we are currently, everyone elected needs to go back to its people and say, what are your issues? What we have is people engaged. Elections, you go for campaigns. After elections, you leave the people. And so we are cheating and shortchanging Nigerians, and we're treating them like they do not belong and they do not have a voice. And so for me, to address this agitation, we need to bring government back to the people. We need to bring governance back to the people.
Here.
Inclusivity, how we engage. State assembly, legislators, are you meeting your constituents to know what their needs are so that informs your representation in the state assembly? Governors, are you engaging the people that elected you? Are your commissioners working to deliver on the needs of the people? Are you creating an enabling business environment to ensure that young entrepreneurs, their businesses can thrive at that state level? I was in Lagos last year. We're doing a project at the local government level, and most of the complaints from the market women, the Butchers Association, was multiple taxation. So you have people in the informal sector who have petty businesses. They are taxed by local government, they are taxed by state government. Aberos are disturbing them everywhere. So you make your money, before you get home, you are finished paying and settling people. And so we don't even have an enabling business for small business owners. And so for me, when I say governance to the people, is the realistic things to do. We need to review our taxing system. We've been talking about tax reforms. But even in the implementation of these tax reforms, there are some Nigerians that are heavily paying tax and no services delivered to them. I don't mind paying tax if I have good roads, if I have power, if I have security. I will pay the tax confidently. But the thing is, you pay tax, but you can't hold on to anything your tax is doing for you. And so when I talk about enabling business environment, it's at the state level. How are you ensuring that small businesses can thrive by providing better tax incentive for them and better opportunities for even loans? That does not exist. We don't have a good mortgage system, for instance. So to be a house owner, you need to work or use your whole resources. Because you go to some countries, people, you have a mortgage scheme. You can pay. There's a process for you to have your dream, to realize the dream of owning a house. Some countries you go to even buy a car, you have a loan system. You don't need to pay at once. We don't have all of these systems, and I think they can exist. It's not because we are poor. Nigeria is not poor. We have the resources. But every state needs to ask themselves internally, what can I do to support the individuals that are entrepreneurial in the state, the people that have the ideas to get the state working? What we have is governors are elected, legislators win elections, then they think of settling people with giving them aids, and to them that's job creation. That's not job creation. And in fact, when Mr.
That's
Dide was talking,
laziness.
that is, yes, when he was talking about creation of states, you will increase overhead, recurrent costs, and to them that is job creation. It means we are not thinking, and it's not like we don't have the knowledge and intelligence and intellect to think. It's just that we are lazy to think to get the work done. And I do believe that every state in Nigeria, every state currently has resources that can keep them thriving if they look within, not looking at the federal. Okay. So that for me is a bigger issue. How do you look within to solve the problem of the people within? Because you need to bring governance back to the people. A lot of Nigerians honestly are giving up in Nigeria, and I do not want that to be our system and our trajectory.
At all, Cynthia, you know, when President Buhari said we have a lazy generation, the whole Nigeria came up on him, and you know, he was denied. But the fact is there. Let's bring it. Excuse me. You can go ahead.
All right. Let's thank you, Cynthia, for that. You've spoken a lot. You know, Mahatma Gandhi said something. He said, "We have enough for everybody, but we do not have enough for our greed." Now, let's bring in Adedayo now. Adedayo, I mean, we still want to get your view on this. I know that you are trying to give us, you are trying to justify the need why you think that Ijebu State is important.
There was an issue you raised that some Ijebus have been governors in Ogun State. What have they done? Now, one, I'll just mention a few before you go to your question. Otumba Gbenga Daniel, when he was governor, he conceptualized the agro-cargo airport in Ogun State. That airport now, to me, the long way is about the longest and the best in Nigeria so far. It has been actualized by the current governor, who is also an Ijebu. That is Dapo Abiodun. A deep sea port was also conceptualized by OGD. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, during the First Republic, he has there's 9 farm settlements for agriculture in this part of the western region, which we now call Ogun State. OGD increased those farm settlements from 9 to 15 when he was governor. And many of those farm settlements are in this part of the state. The first University of Education in Nigeria was established in Ijebu by the governor, then OGD at that time. Then ICT polytechnics, 4 of them in the 4 divisions of Ogun State were established by OGD as well. Then there was also a polytechnic to supply manpower needs of the oil and gas sector, because we were calculating that because there is crude oil deposit in Ogun State, we have the largest deposit of bitumen here. That polytechnic for oil and gas was also established. And apart from that, we're talking about unemployment and so on. During that administration, a database for the unemployed was established in Ogun State. And from that database, those unemployed people who were registered, they were getting monthly stipend from the state government every month. And then that database was also the pool from which the civil service, the Ogun State Civil Service, was picking people each time there is a vacancy in the civil service and other departments of government. Now, I've mentioned that now. Now, let me just quickly go back to my sister. She mentioned something, that politicians who are in elective office, that they should ask the people when they get office that what are the issues, what are the things they want. She got that wrong there. What should happen is that before you are elected, you must know the issues facing your people, and you must have come with your own solutions to those issues. It is not when you get into office that you now start asking questions, what are the issues? If you don't know the issues, then not in office. You should have known the issues before you get into office. Now, I'm ready for you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Adedayo. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. But, you know, one of the things that we're talking about here is that for you to be able to tell us why, Ijebu State is, necessary at this time. But thank you so much for for what you have given us. Let's come back to the studio because we are running out of time. Let's have you, Jide. Now, I said something before we went to Mr. Adedayo, that Mahatma Gandhi said something that we have enough for our needs, but we do not have enough for our greed.
Yes.
Exactly, Ademola, exactly. What we have been shying from saying frontally is the issue of corruption in governance. Yeah. The old excellencies that Honorable was referring to, why do they want to have a stranglehold on local government? It's because they want to appropriate the resources of the local government for their own personal use. Corruption is our #1 problem. And when you create these states, new local government, you are already just creating centers of corruption, centers of greed. Because in 1991, I think it's August, my letter to the editor in Daily Sketch, I was young, impressionable, and I was flowing with the crowd. Osun State is a felt need. That was the title of that piece I wrote. A felt need. Where is Osun State today? Is it an El Dorado? What we are talking of viability, sustainability index. Is Osun State with that federal allocation today, is it sustainable? So the question is, if a state has existed for over 30 years and is still not sustainable,
Still struggling.
It's still struggling financially. So why do you want to calibrate and balkanize and then my guy will become governor of Okura State or whatever state they give to Kogi or Savannah State, somebody will go. So the issue then becomes access to resources, no access to serve.
Access to resources, yes, not access to serve. Your parting shots.
Let me first say, I like to comment.
In 1 minute, in 1 minute.
No, whatever it is, please let me just put it in perspective. He kept referring to Shaba, governor. They don't have to be state creation before I become a governor. You understand? I can be governor if I want to be, if I want to contest, if people like it. They don't have to create new state for me to go to Okura. I don't even belong there, but that's by the way. You see, I want to, and I need to say this. We have laid so much emphasis on the issue of corruption. I beg to disagree completely. Corruption is not the biggest of our problem. Okay. It is one of our problems. Ineptitude in leadership is worse than corruption because it also breeds corruption. Leadership is very key. Corruption cannot be the only problem. Corruption is further exacerbated by the ineptitude of the leadership and the ineptitude of leadership. So if you have that inept leadership, it's going to breed corruption without end. And we must get it in that perspective. The process of bringing up our leadership must be checked so that we can have leaders that truly have the interest of the people.
Thank you. I want to say that, and just what my brother said, what I was saying is, you win elections, you do campaigns, but you need to constantly dialogue with the people because our needs change and our realities change. And for the agitators of creation of new states, I want to call to every Nigerian. This is just a call to Nigerians. Our country would work when we Nigerians wake up to our rights and make demands. We have done an election. We need to start reaching out to our lawmakers, reach out to those we have elected and get them to do the work for us. Because if we sit down and wait and complain, things will not get done. Democracy gives you the power as a citizen. Honestly, we need to just keep making the noise.
All hands have to be on deck. Now, let's bring you Wale Adede. For your final words, what is your vision for an Ijebu state?
Hello? Come in.
What is the vision of those agitating for an Ijebu state for the state, if eventually it becomes a state?
The vision for Ijebu State is for that state to take Ijebu land and every area it covers to that period it was before the Europeans came. If you go through the history of Yoruba land, Ijebu land was the most developed part of Yoruba land. Maybe because we had enormous contacts with the Europeans, we were trading with them and so on, I mean, this place was well developed. Security challenge was not there. I mean, we never had any security challenges. Everything was okay. But in the current dispensation, I can assure you that we should be able to supply, if not the whole of Nigeria, at least of Nigeria, their agricultural needs. Because we have the land, we have the people, and we have the know-how to make that happen.
Okay, Wale Adedayo, thank you so much for your vision for Ijebu State. But that's taking you a long way back when you go to pre-colonial days, actually. So, former chairman Ijebu East Local Government, Ogun State, thank you so much for your contribution on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. We appreciate you. Cynthia Mbamalu, Director Programs, Yaga Africa, it's always a delight to have you in the studio. I like your perspective. And Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, you know, your enthusiasm and love for this country cannot be overemphasized. We thank you so much. And Honorable Shaba Ibrahim, legal practitioner and former member House of Representatives and a potential governor of Kogi State. Thank you so much for coming. And that's how it's been on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. Thank you so much. We hope you learned and a lot from this conversation. And it should be a continued conversation. I am Jumma Yusuf.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Enjoy the rest of your day.